A power grab from the province of Ontario? More water woes? Now, of course, we've got developers unhappy. And lastly, a slow January market. I want to talk to you about that and these other stories starting right now. This is KW Real Estate News and Views for the week of February 16th. Happy Family Day, everybody. I hope you guys had a chance to get together with loved ones, but we're back to the work week and I'm going to tell you about this week's real estate stories. First thing, province of Ontario, underneath Omnibus Bill 60 that was passed in the fall, local environmentalists here in Waterloo Region are concerned that the province could take over our problematic water system. That's been in the news a lot lately. The Mannheim service area is suffering from shortages and the region currently is not issuing permits for new water hookups for developers. Anyways, Bill 60, potentially the province could take our water supply system and put it under the control of a corporation. I don't know whether this is going to happen or not. It is, of course, possible, and local environmentalists are kind of putting up the red flag and letting us know that this could happen. On that water front, developers are also, needless to say, quite unhappy with what's been going on. Just a quick FYI for you, the Mannheim service area covers all of Waterloo, almost all of Kitchener, and the surrounding areas. Cambridge is not affected, but developments within the Mannheim service area are currently stalled and new hookups aren't being done. The other day, February 10th, Region had a meeting with local developers and they are worried about layoffs and of course losing money on projects they've got underway already. One of the people at the meeting, Stubbs Precast, he was saying, they've got a 10-month lag on when they start up their next projects and already they're going, okay, we can't do anything now, and they're worried about having to lay their guys off. I get that. I've got a friend in the construction industry. It's very cyclical, and of course, with a freeze like this, development could definitely be quite problematic in the region. One good little bit of good news on that, Mayor Barry Vrbanovic from Kitchener, he put forward a motion that said that 50% of whatever new capacity they manage to bring on over the next 5 years will be given to developments where they've already got the planning approvals done. Obviously, right now they're not being hooked up, but this allows a lot of these projects for them to keep on doing work. If it's 2 or 3, 4 years down the road before they actually need the water hookup, the developers are hoping that gives them a bit of a buffer and they won't lose their shirts or lay people off. I mean, that all makes sense. Let's hope they can do this. I think it's going to be a slow fix. I recall reading a few weeks back, Karen Redmond, regional chair, she was saying their short-term fix, which is only bringing on 3 or 4% capacity increase, that's going to be late 2026, 2027 before that's even finished. So this is a big issue. Now, here's $1 million question. How did this happen? Well, I'm going to tell you because it's ridiculous. Everybody thinks about, okay, how does water supply get to these new developments? Well, you dig a hole in the ground and build a street, the water gets hooked up to each house, that makes sense. Well, that part of it they forecast. What they didn't forecast was what's known as infill developments. And what infill is say a developer, he does a land assembly, he picks up a bunch of houses in the core of Kitchener, 5, 6, 7 houses. It gives him enough of a footprint that he can build a tower. When he builds that tower, we're gone from 5 or 6 homes with toilets and laundry and all that stuff to like hundreds of people. So they didn't account for the infill, and that's why we've got a shortage. I don't know how they missed that. To me, that doesn't seem like rocket science, but anyways, that's what's going on. They weren't calculating stuff correctly, and now we are way above this 80% capacity we're supposed to have. They want to run it at 80%, and we're going into near 100. We've been into the 90s. So that's what's going on, and that's why it's a big problem. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the investment community is already bailed on the condo scene, and developers who are building condos, obviously, if they can't get water, that's going to be a big issue for them finishing up those projects. Now, how that's going to play out in our housing market? Our housing market right now is super slow. January was super slow. Every month, really, for the past year, I've been talking about this. It's been slow, slow, slow. And the numbers, again, are showing that. So I'm going to start off first with detached properties. Detached properties, one of the more desirable segments. We have 4 months worth of inventory. We came in at $862,000 for January. and that's down 2.3% for the year. So not a big decrease. And again, I think that's due to the desirability of a freehold detached home. Now, our next segment, semis, it's actually still a seller's market. They've got 2 months worth of inventory. So there's very little listings. There's very little sales. They came in at 634 grand, and that's actually up 1.2% on the year. So that's a bright spot in an otherwise down market. Looking at townhouses, I'm going to split this up. Townhouses, roughly 2/3 are condominium. The other 1/3 is freehold. When you look at your inventory levels, we've got 7 months worth of inventory for the condo segment, and then only 5 months for the freehold. And that, again, that's desirability. People don't want to pay those fees, and they're willing to pay a premium for the freehold versus the condominium. I'd say that spreads around 100 grand depending on the unit, but right now the average for both came in at 550 grand for January. That's down almost 13% on the year, so that's a big hit, and I think a big chunk of that is condominium, and again, investors bailing on that space. Lastly, I want to finish up with apartment-style condos. Apartment-style condos came in at $417,000. They had an almost 14 months worth of inventory. So, I mean, this is a buyer's market. There's no other way to describe it. I mean, heavy buyer's market. They're down, I think I said this, or if I didn't, my apology, 11% on the year. So that's a big hit as well. And again, almost 14 months worth of inventory. Now, I looked at the February numbers for inventory, and every segment's improved. Too early, of course, we're only halfway through the month. Too early to talk about prices. Listings, of course, are up, but sales are too. So I think it's going to be a little bit better February than it has been for January, but this market is definitely a slow market, slowest we've seen in well over a decade. I think that trend is going to continue. Of course, going into the spring, it's entirely possible we'll see some price increases just because it's always busier in the spring. But I don't think these are going to be big increases. And some segments, like, for example, apartment-style condos, they could still be, depressed. And that, at the moment, I see no reason for that to be changing, at least not in the short term. So if you're a buyer, make sure you check out all my buyer information. I've got info on all the neighborhoods, what to do about the process, everything. Go check it out. You can be patient, put your conditions in, get a good realtor, get the house exactly that you want because you've got choice. If you're a seller, it's a completely different animal. You have to make your property stand out compared to the competition. That means getting, killer video done, fantastic photography, all the little things fixed. The house has got to be clean, the house has got to be presentable. Because if you don't, your neighbor who does the work is going to be the one that gets a chance at getting a premium over asking. If your house doesn't look great, you might get lists. This market is what it is. So do that work and you'll get some good money for your property. This is just the reality of the market we're living in. We are in a buyer's market. Sellers, buyers, you have to understand that's what's going on. And that's it. That's all I got for you this week. Thank you so much for watching and have yourself a phenomenal day.